What's going on, YouTube Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Kershaw Knockout, but not just any Kershaw Knockout. No, this is the USA-made blade exclusive M390 Kershaw Knockout. If you have not shopped with USA-made blade, I urge you to check them out. As I've said before, I've been doing business with USA-made blade and Scott Whittington since long before the channel, given that they are a fantastic supplier of, obviously, USA-made knives. Also, Hinderer knives. You guys know I'm into that stuff. So if, when you get the itch, we all get that itch to buy a new knife, put them on your list to check out, see if they've got what you want, because they definitely have a lot of cool stuff. And Scott Whittington is just a genuinely good guy. Absolutely. So this knife was provided directly by USA-made blade. As always, I'll try not to let that affect my review. Shouldn't be too difficult here. Let me go ahead and get a measurement for you guys. From tip to scale, it's always, sometimes like measuring things, I always point this out, it's surprising. This knife looks bigger than it is. It's coming in at like 7.8 inches overall. It's not quite, 8 inches. From tip to scale on blade length, you're looking at, in places, it's like 3.6. If you want to measure up to that tip, it's actually less than 3.5. Call it a 3.6 inch blade. The actual cutting edge is about 3.4, something like that. So it's got quite a bit of blade to handle ratio. That's pretty cool. Let's do some size comparisons here up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. So you can see there, Rat 1 is a bigger knife in terms of length, but in terms of overall profile, I would still call the Knockout a big knife, despite having a measurement that a lot of people would call a medium-sized knife. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. You like how I always have to get my cool, stylish reverse flick on camera, just to remind everybody that I know how to do that. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. Ritter Hogue coming in at about 8 inches overall. Once again, proving to be an excellent size comparison for this knife. You can see here, while we do have two completely different blade shapes and different handle shapes, they are kind of in a similar area in terms of overall profile. So that to me is at least the knife that I own that compares, best in terms of overall size. Last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Let me give you guys an example of the action here. This is a USA Kershaw. And, not all USA Kershaws are assisted, but this one is. It does have the assist on it. Now, I have in recent years grown away from assisted knives, but I'll admit there still is, a charm to them in terms of nostalgia for me. A lot of people still like them. My thoughts on assisted knives have been about the same. The assisted feature ensures that the knife will deploy as you engage either the thumb stud or the flipper. The downside is that there is an additional part in there, in this case a torsion bar, that in theory over time could wear out, and then in this knife's case, which it does not have a detent ball, you'd end up with a knife that cannot deploy, or cannot stay retracted in the handle unless the torsion bar is replaced. That's fine. Look, a lot of us like automatic knives, whether they be side opening automatics or switchblades, and the same idea applies. To me, it's not really that big a deal. As far as Kershaw's warranty goes, if you have a torsion bar break, they'll take care of you. So the other nice thing about the way that this is set up is that the assisted feature does not force the blade into place all the way to here. No, actually the tension starts about right here. So you were watching me, opening it and closing it with one hand is actually not an issue. A lot of people know this. I mean, we've all handled Kershaw speed safe knives that are assisted. That's fine. From a utilitarian standpoint, I think that's great. Just wanted to point that out. Let's take a look here at, no, you know what? We got to weigh it. I always forget to weigh it. So what are we working on here with materials? Let's go ahead and zero that out real quick. We are looking at 6061 T6 aluminum that has been Type 3 hard coat anodized, giving it that black color there. Then we have an M390, it's like a dark acid wash tumbled blade. And then we actually do have a steel lock bar that is resting sort of inside, or it's been attached to the frame with some screws on the inside of the handle. And we also have a pretty thin profile. So what do we come up here with on weight? 3.92 ounces, just under 4 ounces. A lot of people like to do the whole ounce and inch thing, so you're looking at 3.4, 3.5 inches of blade for 3.9 ounces. I'd say that's pretty good. In terms of carry profile, combined with weight, yeah, this knife is not an issue to carry at all. I like it a lot. Let's take a look at the blade. What we have is a very tall blade. Compared to what I've got in my pocket today, the Spyderco Shaman, you can see there the height of the blade is pretty similar to the Spyderco Shaman. So we've got quite a ways to drop, though there is a pretty prominent swedge up here. So your flat carries out only about 30% the length of the blade. The swedge is up here, the top, maybe, I don't know, 30% or so of the knife, 25% of the knife. So you're dropping from about here. Given that the blade stock thickness is, let me turn on my super awesome caliper. I'm honestly, guys, I'm just waiting for these to die so I can buy a new pair. 120, I'm going to say it's probably 125 thousandths, which I think is probably pretty typical for Kershaw. My point is that you don't start out super thick. So to where this drops to the edge, let me assure you, this knife is very thin behind the edge. This has a performance cutting edge and a performance cutting shape. Lots of belly. In terms of slicing tasks, yeah, this is going to be really great. Despite there being, you know, a flat that only carries out to here, the thickness of the stock is actually carried out for the most part all the way to this point. So you do have a pretty thin tip. I wouldn't quite say it gets Spyderco thin. You can see there we're still ever so slightly more robust than a Spyderco at the tip. So you're okay there. This is M390. M390 is not the toughest steel in the world. It does excel in corrosion resistance and edge retention. My point is, I wouldn't be sticking this tip in and prying around or anything like that. But the blade shape yields some durability, absolutely. The blade shape all the way around looks really attractive. This is a nice drop point blade. Typical KAI USA. The actual cutting edge has been ground symmetrically. It just looks good. I'll give you guys a nice close-up here. Everything is in order. It just looks really, really good. I'll let you look down the cutting edge there. Really great. As far as Kershaw's branding goes, I have no problem with how they have this on the front. On the back, we have what's on a whole bunch of ZT knives and Kershaw knives, and it didn't used to bother me, but now, you know, kind of looking at it, I'm like, it's kind of, it makes it look a little manufactured. It's definitely not as bad as some other companies, but there's just a lot of codes all over the place. I would have been just fine with Kai USA and M390, but we've got, of course, 1870 BLK. I always say it out loud like Bluckable. Kai patented, made in the USA, M390, and then back here we've got the patent number, 9 million, blah, whatever. All right, I don't know if we need that. It's not a deal breaker, definitely. Moving on here. Oh, by the way, nice sharpening choil there. The thumb stud is a little bit in the cutting path. Given how a normal person would cut, though, it's usually not straight down. You do make some cuts straight down, and in that case, thumb stud's going to get a little bit caught. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you're cutting, you know, kind of making slicing movements there, it should draw material out and away from the thumb stud, so no big deal there. The actual flipper tab is nicely chamfered and rounded off. It's at an angle that's very natural and very comfortable for your finger. You guys know, you know, the Knockout has been around for a while. I've actually got another one here that was provided to me, lent to me by Neves Knives. If you haven't checked out Neves Knives, definitely check them out. Go over to their channel and subscribe. They're awesome people. But you can see there's some differences in the original handle versus the handle that's on this M390 USA-made blade exclusive variant. Did I say that? Did I not make that clear? This is a USA-made blade exclusive. So if you want this knife, you got to go over to USA-made blade. Don't worry, there's links in the description. Anyways, a little bit of difference there. We've got a DLC, more of a DLC coating, more waving lines there on the handle. And this, we have more of a, you know, this is more of a handle that I like. Less going on, some traction points that are meaningful but not getting in the way of anything. And then we have a nice tumble blade. Both styles are nice. There's nothing different other than the steel. Is this, I imagine it's either 12C27N or 4, it's probably 14C28N. But in terms of how the blade is ground, how it deploys, how it feels, everything's about the same. Neves Knives has an example here of one that is thoroughly used and still doing just fine. No blade play up, down, left, or right in that guy. And the same thing is going on with this guy. No blade play up, down, left, or right. I've always been impressed with Kershaw's USA lines fit and finish, and it doesn't seem to be any different here in this variant of the Knockout. Anyways, yeah, flipper tab is in a great place. It's shaped well. It's comfortable. If you're a fidgety person, you can play with this thing all day. It's nice and clicky and satisfying. No issues there. On the aluminum scales, we have nice chamfering all the way around. Very rounded off. No issues. I want to point out that these lines here, like what I was talking about, actually do provide a little tiny bit of traction. Probably a little more if you're wearing some gloves or something like that. The aluminum handle has that chalky finish that's associated with Type 3 hard coat anodizing. That combined with the fact that the ergonomics are actually existent on this knife, meaning that you actually have specified places for your fingers, and there is a little palms hole back here there you can lock in. I feel very locked in and comfortable despite aluminum, traditionally being a slightly smooth surface. Very comfortable. I mean, this knife was obviously designed for the human hand. I appreciate that. What I also appreciate is the slight cutout that allows you to get in there and engage with the lock bar. It's amazing how many companies just ignore that. No matter how far this lock bar wears over, which I'll actually give you an example of on Neves Knives, a thoroughly used one. You can see here it's worn not quite all the way over, but almost, but look at that. Because the cutout's there, you can get your thumb in there and continue to engage it. If that cutout were not there, you would have to mash your finger into this tiny little area right here and then hope that you get enough traction to move it over. I mean, yeah, you can still do it, but it's just a nice little feature, I appreciate that. Thank you for not only making this a little bit deeper and this side a little bit more shallow, but also cutting out a little side of the lock bar it's just very comfortable to engage. If you like to do this over and over and over again all day, every day, this Knockout is just a really good design to do this with. I just appreciate that. You have a nice simple T8 pivot head there, easy adjustments. Unfortunately, we do have T6. I don't like those. You guys hear me complain about it all the time. Whatever, it's not a deal breaker. We have an aluminum backspacer. It doesn't quite sit flush. It's just below the handle scales. I don't think that's on accident though. I think that's on purpose. This one's the exact same way. It's just sitting slightly below the scales. So I wouldn't consider that a flaw or anything. You do have holes here that allow the pocket clip to be mounted for left or right hand position and actually tip down carry position. For those of you who like to carry flipper knives that are assisted in tip down, I would recommend against that, but you can do whatever you want to do. So yeah, however your carry preferences are, this knife is very accommodating. You have a little teeny tiny lanyard hole. You definitely can force some 550 through there if you really want to. It's just not a very big hole. I'm not sure why. It probably could have been bigger, but I don't care. I'm not a lanyard person, so it just doesn't matter to me. With this being an aluminum handled knife and a frame lock, obviously, I mean, for those of you who don't know, you can't do aluminum on a frame lock. If you're going to do an aluminum lock bar, it would have to have at least a steel lock bar insert. I don't know that aluminum is the best choice for a lock, so they've opted to do something interesting here that they do with all Knockouts. They do a steel lock bar that is actually fixed to the frame from underneath down in there. I don't know if we can get in there. You can kind of see in there how it's attached. This is a good idea because then you have steel on steel contact, which should reduce wear in combination with the contact point on that stop pin. That's good. It's not quite as low cost, in terms of like manufacturing what it costs to do the lock bar inserts on a lock bar. If the chip wears out, you can just replace the chip. But I would imagine if for whatever reason that steel piece fails or wears all the way over in a very short amount of time, I would imagine that Kershaw's warranty will take care of you in that department. I like this. You get a strong locking system on a very lightweight frame. This is great considering how much knife you're getting for how much weight you're carrying and the overall profile and what I feel like I'm capable of doing with this knife. Did I mention we are working with phosphor bronze on this guy? So yeah, can you take this knife out and beat on it? Absolutely, it's set up for that. We have a very typical Kershaw style deep carry pocket clip. It's okay. I've broken these clips before. Kershaw tends to send new ones if you break it. You might break it, but does it do its job? Yeah, absolutely. I can get this knife easily in and out of the pocket with one hand. No issue there. I appreciate how thin this thing is, both in terms of the blade and in terms of the handle scales. It really makes it easy to carry. This is one of those knives you just, when you're carrying it, you just feel good about it. You know, it's lightweight. It's got a nice cutting belly. I mean, it's not trying to be anything extra. It has some cool flashy elements, but none of the flashy elements, in my opinion, are getting in the way of what you would want from this knife from a utilitarian standpoint. This is a really excellent design. Again, my only nitpicks, the thumb stud is slightly in the cutting path, not hardly a big deal at all. It's got some T6 screws on it. Oh well, no big deal. The pocket clip is a little bit frail, and those tend to break, but I've broken them before, and Kershaw's pretty good about sending other ones. And then you've got some branding, and you've got some text kind of all over the place. Oh well. Another good thing that I forgot to point out, like a lot of Kershaw and ZT knives, you do have a captive pivot, meaning it's not going to free spin. If you need to take this guy apart, it's going to be pretty easy. You can look at the torsion bar and the assisted feature as either an advantage or disadvantage. It's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, it's an assisted knife. That's okay. I can close it with one hand and open it with one hand. I don't plan on abusing this thing, so I'm not concerned with a torsion bar breaking. Does it happen? Yeah. Does it happen all the time? No. It's actually very, very rare. It's like an omega spring breaking in a Benchmade knife. Does it happen, and have you heard about it happening? Yeah. Does that mean it happens all the time? No. Kershaw's got a good warranty. As long as you're not doing anything stupid with your knife or doing anything that might have caused the failure, to my knowledge, they will take care of you. What's the best thing about this knife? The best thing about this knife is what it costs. This is a USA made knife utilizing a good durable handle material, great fit and finish overall, excellent blade shape, excellent fit and finish. By the way, did I mention the knife is centered and locks up nice and early at about 25% with absolutely no blade play, up, down, left, or right. All these features, and you can get it for about $100. There's 3 different versions of this knife that you can get exclusively at USA Made Blade. No, they're not paying me to say this. This is the truth. This is what I think about this knife and where you can get it. There's a version that has red anodized aluminum handles and a tumbled blade for $99.95 or something like that, about $100. And then you can get this all black version for $5 more, or $6 more. It's like $105.95. And then there is a sort of gold or tan anodized. It's more gold bronze anodized, like flat gold bronze or flat dark earth. I don't know what you want to call it. More gold bronze, in my opinion, with the same black black tumbled blade for $105. And then they also have their, you know, if you guys don't know, one of the cool reasons to go to USA Made Blade is that they have models from Kershaw, ZT, Hinderer, and I think some other stuff that they're authorized by the manufacturer to do really cool custom anode jobs, like Stars and Stripes. They've got Crusader crosses, a whole bunch of stuff. Like I've seen like skulls and things. It's just really, really cool. Their Anamascus stuff is awesome. If you want a really cool model that's really popular and it's USA made, and it's amongst some of the brands that I listed them, and there's many more, not just the ones I listed, but you want like your own kind of unique flair on it, you want one that's kind of very limited in how many they did, or maybe completely unique, go over there and look. They do cool stuff. This exact model, this Knockout, they have a version that's got Stars and Stripes, and I think it says We the People on it. They don't charge anything extra. They just do a few from the batches they get, and then if you're lucky enough to get your hands on it while it's there, then hey, there you go. Then you've got a special one. Really, really cool. Can I recommend this knife? Yes. This is a knife that will absolutely go on my most recommended knives of all time playlist. I love this knife. I think it's awesome if you decide to pull the trigger on it. I mean, it's one of the least expensive M390 knives out there. Absolutely, 100%. The knives that are made in the United States utilizing M390 generally cost a lot more money, so this is a deal and a half, absolutely. Scott Whittington, thank you so much for providing this knife for review. I really appreciate it. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's review. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.